Welcome again, dear student. Myself, Dr. Kaleem Ahmad, Assistant Professor, Department of Wildlife Sciences, Aligarh Muslim University, Aligarh. Now, in today's lecture, we will discuss the biodiversity hotspots. Actually, species serves as a fundamental components of Earth life support systems upon which we all actually depend on. However, we can say the biodiversity of our planet, encompassing its rich variety of the life forms, is currently threatened, or we can say threatening an unprecedented crisis that we have already discussed in many previous lectures. Factors we can say such as development, urbanization, pollution, and disease are significantly disrupting the interconnected web of life. Presently, we can say species are disappearing at alarming rate comparable to the rapid extinctions observed during the era of dinosaurs. So, to address this crisis effectively, it is important, it is imperative to safeguard the habitat where biodiversity actually thrives. However, species distribution across the globe is uneven. It's not like that the species are distributed evenly throughout, we can say, throughout the globe. With certain regions, we can say, hosting a high concentration of unique species found nowhere else in the world. We can say sadly many of these areas are under severe threat due to habitat destruction and many other human induced activities. These regions are recognized as biodiversity hotspots comprising where successful conservation efforts can produce substantial benefit for global biodiversity conservation. Biodiversity hotspots are actually regions characterized by high level of the biodiversity, meaning they contain a large number of the different species, including many of that are endemic. It means found nowhere else in the world. These hotspots are areas with significant ecological importance and are often rich in unique and threatened species. Actually, the concept of these biodiversity hotspots was first introduced by British biologist Norman Myers in 1988. To qualify an area or a region as a biodiversity hotspots, a region must meet two strict criteria. One is it must have at least 15,000 vascular plant species as endemic, which is to say it must have high percentage of plant life found nowhere else in the planet. It also must have at least 30% or less of its original natural vegetation. In other words, it must be threatened. This criteria reflects actually the urgent need for conservation efforts in these regions to prevent further loss of biodiversity of these high biodiversity regions. Biodiversity hotspots are actually distributed worldwide and they cover only a small percentage of earth land surface areas. Despite we can say their relatively small size, they support an exceptionally high proportion of world's plants and animal species. So we can say protecting these hotspots is very crucial for global biodiversity conservation because these conservation efforts helps to preserve a significant portion of earth unique and threatened species. There are we can say presently 36 acknowledged biodiversity hotspots which represent the most biological rich terrestrial region on earth, yet we can say they are also under severe threat. We can say around 2 billion people inhabit these 36 biodiversity hotspots, hosting some of the world most poor individuals who depend directly on healthy ecosystems for their livelihood and human well-being. So it means it's creating some kind of immense pressure on these biodiversity hotspots. This is the map actually showing the 36 biodiversity hotspots of the world with their distributions. These hotspots play a crucial role in providing essential services, or we can say essential ecosystem services for human life, including the provision of clean water, pollination, and climate regulation, and many more. Despite we can say hosting some of the highest human population densities globally, the relationship we can say between the people and the biodiversity is not simply a linear correlations, where we can say more peoples result in greater impacts on biodiversity. The significant impact on biodiversity, like we can say, arises more from human activities than just we can say on the basis of the population density. It's not like that the more the population density, more will be the effect, but it's dependent on what kind of the human activities in that particular areas it actually impacts the biodiversity of that particular regions. So conservation efforts in these hotspots focus on advocating for the sustainable management of these vital natural resources that promoting economic growth and simultaneously reducing factors that drive violent conflicts between human and the wildlife. We will discuss in brief the 36 biodiversity hotspots in the next 2 and 3 lectures. Let's start from this Carbon Islands. It's a biodiversity hotspots. We can say this Carbon Island biodiversity hotspots consist mainly of 3 large group of islands between the North and South America, the Bahamas, the Lesser Antilles, and the Greater Antilles. The Caribbean Islands, recognized as a biodiversity hotspots, present an range of ecosystems that actually contributing to their global ecological significance. These islands, scattered across the Caribbean Sea, are characterized by the diverse habitats, including we can say rainforest, wetland, and extensive coral reefs. The hotspot is renowned for its remarkable biodiversity, hosting endemic species that have evolved in isolations. However, we can say the Carbon Islands face substantial threats due to their unique ecosystems. Habitat loss is primary concern driven by the factors such as agriculture expansion, urbanization, and infrastructure development. The health of the coral reefs we can say is crucial for marine biodiversity is also under risk or also under threat. Rising sea temperature we can say attributed to climate change contribute to coral bleaching that actually disrupting the delicate balance between these underwater ecosystems. All we can say 200 native amphibian species that are actually found in the Carbon Islands are endemics. So one of the world smallest frog, we can say the critically endangered Macaya breeze spotland frog is also found in these particular islands. We can say historically the Caribbean island hotspots sported 127 terrestrial mammal species, of which 23 are now considered extinct. Today we can say 25% of the 104 mammal species that are there in this particular islands are globally threatened with extinctions. There are about 565 known bird species in the Caribbean Islands hotspots. 55 are currently listed as globally threatened. 48 of we can say of which are confined to the hotspots and 12 of which are considered critically endangered. These includes ivory billed woodpeckers, ridgeway hawks, and Grenada doves. More than we can say 600 native species of the reptiles, about 82% of which are endemic to these particular regions. Another is Mesoamerica. It's a biodiversity hotspots that actually spanning from southern Mexico to Panama is a region of exceptional ecological richness as well as cultural diversity. This area encompassing a variety of the ecosystems, including we can say tropical rainforest, cloud forests and mangroves. These hotspots characterized by high level of the biodiversity and endemisms, facing significant threats primarily driven by the human activities. Deforestation we can say often linked to agricultural expansions and logging poses some kind of the major risks to the diverse habitats within these particular regions of Mesoamerica. The forest of these biodiversity hotspots are home to nearly 1120 bird species, including we can say more than 200 species are restricted to this particular region. It means they are endemic to this Mesoamerica biodiversity hotspots. The hotspots also hold around 440 species of the mammals, of which 65 are endemic to these particular regions. The area is most diverse hotspots for reptiles, with more than 690 species found here, and nearly or approximately 35% of which are endemic to these biodiversity hotspots. With more than 550 species of the amphibians, about 350 are endemics. Mesoamerica also have some 17,000 species of the vascular plants, of which 3,000 of which are considered to be endemic to this particular region. We can say the conservation efforts in Mesoamerica biodiversity hotspots focus on combination of strategies, including we can say the establishment of the protected areas, sustainable land use practices and community based initiatives. Initially we can say initiatives we can say like the Mesoamerica biological corridors aim to connect the fragmented habitats, thus allowing for the movement of the species across landscape is one of the we can say major conservation initiatives in this Mesoamerica biodiversity hotspot. Another is Atlantic forest. The Atlantic forest actually stretches along Brazil's Atlantic coasts. The Atlantic forest is a biodiversity hotspot that actually unique and have diverse ecosystems one can find in these biodiversity hotspots. Once it has been found very expensive, now it faces a severe threats from deforestation as well as from urbanizations. These hotspots actually harbors incredible biodiversity, including endangered species like the golden line tamarins and the woolly spider monkeys. Conservation efforts we can say in this particular biodiversity hotspots aim to mitigate habitat loss, restore fragmented landscapes and protect the remaining biodiversity rich areas, emphasizing the importance of preserving this ecosystem for its unique flora, fauna and ecosystem services. Another we can say this the Atlantic forest has a huge bird diversity. We can say with more than 930 species, it has been found that 15% are endemic, means found nowhere else in any other regions. There are about more than 70 of we can say 260 mammal species in this particular biodiversity hotspots are endemics, and more than 300 reptile species are found in this particular biodiversity hotspots, and approximately considered 95 species are endemic to this biodiversity hotspots. Amphibian diversity is also very high in the Atlantic forests, with more than 450 species recorded and more than half of which are considered to be endemic to this biodiversity hotspots. Around we can say 20,000 vascular plant species are found in this biodiversity hotspots, and around 8,000 are considered as endemic species of this biodiversity hotspot. Another is we can say Cerrado. though we can say this particular biodiversity hotspot is nearby to the Amazon and Atlantic forest, and we can say often it has been considered to save the conservation spotlights. The Cerrado is perhaps we can say just as important in terms of its biodiversity and water and carbon services, just like we can say Amazon and Atlantic forests. The Cerrado we can say is a biodiversity hotspot, is a vast tropical savanna and also facing a we can say significant threats. We can see because of agriculture and urbanizations have led to extensive habitat loss, jeopardizing the region's rich biodiversity. The Cerrado is also home to diverse plant and animal species, including we can say the wolf and the Ghent ant eaters. And the conservation efforts in this particular regions focus on sustainable land use, habitat protection and restoration initiatives to mitigate the impacts of deforestation. We can say preserving the Cerrado is crucial for maintaining its unique ecosystems, safeguarding endemic species and ensuring the overall health of this remarkable biome or this remarkable biodiversity hotspots. The hotspot we can say is estimated to contain approximately 12,000 plant species, with more than one third of these are endemic to this particular region. The Cerrado has we can say relatively high biodiversity with more than 850 species of which 30 are endemic. One of the best known mammal species of this forest is man wolf. Nearly 100 of 262 species of reptiles in Cerrado are endemic, means found nowhere else. More than 200 species of the amphibians have been recorded in the hotspots, of which 72 are endemic. Another is the Chilean winter rainfall. We can say the Chilean winter rainfall or Valdivian forest covers the central northern parts of nation of Chile and for eastern edge of the Argentina. The Chilean winter we can say rainfall or Valdivian forest is a biodiversity hotspot, is marked by ancient temperature rainforests along the Chilean coasts. This unique we can say biodiversity hotspots or ecosystem faces threats from logging and extensive agriculture activities. The region is home to diverse flora and fauna, including we can say the endangered poodle deer and the elusive cocked cat. The conservation efforts in this biodiversity hotspots actually emphasize habitat protection, sustainable forestry practices and raising awareness about the ecological importance of these biodiversity hotspots. So, we can say preserving this hotspot is vital, is very important for safeguarding its extraordinary biodiversity and maintaining the ecological balance of this globally significant biome. One can find about 4,000 vascular plant species in this biodiversity hotspots, and it has been found that half of these are endemic to these biodiversity hotspots. Although birds are not very well represented in this biodiversity hotspots, the region's biodiversity include just over 225 species. There are dozen of these are endemic species, including we can say 3 species of the petrels. In case of the mammals, mammal endemism is relatively also low, with 15 of nearly 70 species are endemic to these biodiversity hotspots. Endemism level for both we can say reptiles and amphibians are high as compared to the birds and the mammals. About 2/3 of the hotspots, or we can say more than 40 reptile species, are endemic to these biodiversity hotspots. A large number of these species are lizards found actually at the mid and high elevation range of these biodiversity hotspots. More than 40 amphibian species are also endemic to this biodiversity hotspot. We can say this is one of the few hotspots with an endemic amphibians family, Rhinodermatidae, with a species like vulnerable Darwin frogs and critically endangered northern Darwin frogs, among the most important flagship species of this particular regions of this, or we can say this particular biodiversity hotspot. With this, dear students, we end today's lecture, and in the next lecture we will discuss the remaining biodiversity. Thank you very much, dear students.